They thought it would be entertaining. A broken alien girl dumped at the feet of a man who never asked for her, just to watch him squirm. But what they didn't know was that he wasn't like the others, and she wasn't what she seemed. Behind her hollow eyes and silent stares was something ancient, something powerful, and deeply wounded. He should have walked away. Instead, he risked everything to heal her. What started as a cruel joke turned into a fight for survival. A journey into secrets buried beneath steel walls and forgotten stars. And at the center of it all, a truth too dangerous to be left alive. Please wait. Before we start, tap that iCard button in the top right corner and smash that subscribe button right now. Hit the notification bell so you're first in line when new stories land. Alright, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1. The crate made no sound when it hit the floor, just a dull, final thud like a body dropped in a grave. It sat there in the far corner of Docking Bay 4, cold and unlabeled. No shipping ID, no sender, no manifest, the kind of delivery that screamed, "Don't ask questions." Dr. Nolan Graves frowned at the manifest screen, confused. This isn't on the schedule. The cargo bot hovered beside him, whirring idly, waiting for input. Nolan tapped the console again, but the crate refused to exist digitally. It was just there. He muttered under his breath, "Great. Another ghost drop." He wasn't in the mood for surprises. Not after the last specimen they dumped on his lap. A half-burnt android that still screamed in code every hour on the hour. But there was something different about this box. Something wrong. Nolan crouched beside it, running his scanner along the edge. Still no ID, no warnings. Then he noticed the writing, crudely scratched into the metal side with what looked like a blunt blade. Entertainment unit. Enjoy. He frowned. That's not ominous at all. Gripping the release lever, Nolan hesitated, just for a second. Then he yanked it down. A hiss of gas escaped, and the lid groaned open. He staggered back. Inside the crate was a woman, or something that looked like one. Her skin shimmered, metallic, smooth, tinted like silver dust under low light. Her long, dark hair was tangled with wires, matted with dried blood. Her body was curled tight, like she'd been stuffed inside. Her suit, sleek, black, and tight as a second skin, hugged every inch of her powerful figure, but it was torn at the ribs and thigh, revealing pulsing blue veins beneath. And then, her eyes opened. Violet, glowing, weak. Nolan froze, breath caught in his throat. "She's alive," he whispered. Behind him, heavy boots echoed. Mara Kent strode into the bay, wiping grease off her cybernetic hand with a towel, unimpressed. "What now?" Nolan pointed wordlessly. Mara looked into the crate and took a full step back. "Okay. Nope. Not it. She's breathing," he said. Mara raised an eyebrow. "Barely. I think she's conscious, which means she's probably dangerous. We can't leave her in there. We can't bring her into the lab either." Mara shot back. "Do you know how many regulations this breaks?" Nolan didn't answer. He was already pulling the med card over. "Seriously, Nolan?" Mara hissed. "They sent her for a reason. You don't name something entertainment unit, unless you're trying to make a point. She's a prop. A sick joke." Her voice softened just slightly. "Don't get involved." But Nolan wasn't listening. He was already sliding his arms under the girl's limp frame, lifting her out gently. She was heavier than she looked. Muscles dense. Bone structure is unfamiliar. But her body trembled like any human's might. Her lips moved. He leaned closer. "Wow, what was that?" he whispered. "Help," just one word. "Faint." "Cracked." That was all it took. Nolan looked Mara dead in the eyes. "I'm getting her to the med bay." Mara sighed. "You're out of her damn mind." He didn't argue. As the doors hissed open and the cold corridor lights cast long shadows, Nolan held her tighter. "Not this one," he muttered under his breath. "She's not dying on my watch." Chapter 2. The medbay lights buzzed to life, casting a cold white glow over the operating table as Nolan wheeled her in. She didn't stir. Her skin glistened like liquid metal under the glow, cracked in places like porcelain fractured under pressure. Bruises. Deep ones. The kind that told stories without words. Nolan worked fast, fingers dancing across the scanner screen, calling up vitals, if you could call them that. Pulse irregular. Neural activity unstable. Biosignature is off the charts, he murmured. The data didn't make sense. Her nervous system was threaded with something not even the scanner could classify, like trying to read a language that didn't exist. He pressed a dermal patch to her neck and activated the nanoserum. "Come on, stay with me," he whispered. The med door whooshed open. Mara stepped in, arms folded, her expression set in stone. "So, is she bleeding stars yet? Or are we still pretending she's not a security risk?" "Not now," Nolan snapped. Mara walked to the table, eyeing the woman with a mix of curiosity and disgust. "What even is she? That suit looks bioengineered. And those injuries? Some of those are surgical." "She's not human," Nolan said, tapping the monitor. "But she's not a machine either. Look at this pattern. Her brainwaves spike every 7 seconds. It's like she's rebooting." Mara narrowed her eyes. "That's not normal. She's in pain. She's dangerous. I don't think she even knows where she is," Nolan said. "She's scared." Mara turned to him. "And you're projecting again." Nolan ignored her and leaned over the girl's face, his voice softening. "You hear me? You're safe now." The girl stirred. Barely. Her eyes fluttered open, a faint violet glow flickering like dying embers. Nolan said quickly, "Don't talk. You're okay. You're in a medical bay." She coughed, a sound like metal scraping glass, and tried to lift her arm. It jerked halfway, then dropped. "Easy," he said, catching her hand. "You're healing." Mara stepped forward, unimpressed. "This healing is draining half the station's power grid, by the way. Her body's pulling energy to regenerate," Nolan said. "She's trying to fix herself. She's gonna blow herself up if she keeps this up." The girl's lips parted, cracked, and bled. "Gah! Kayla." Nolan's head snapped toward her. "What did you say?" "Kayla," she whispered again, weaker this time. He blinked. "That's her name." Or the last thing she heard before getting stuffed in a box, Mara said. Nolan looked down at the girl, at Kayla. "No," he said. "That's her." He reached for the suit's seam, brushing aside a melted section of black polymer. They're barely visible, etched like a tattoo on living armor, were alien symbols. He scanned it. Translator pinged. "Kayla, designation classified." He looked at Mara. "She's not just a weapon. She was someone." Mara shook her head. "You're getting too close. And you're too far gone." Nolan shot back. She glared but said nothing more. As the machines hummed around them, and Kayla slipped back into unconsciousness, Nolan sat beside her, gripping the edge of the table. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know what she could do. But one thing was clear. They'd sent her here for a show. And Nolan was about to rewrite the script. Chapter 3. The next morning, the entire station buzzed with tension. People whispered in hallways. Guards checked weapons twice. Nolan didn't care. He hadn't slept. He sat beside Kayla, eyes bloodshot, hands stained with dried nanoserum. She was stabilizing slowly. Her vitals had balanced overnight, though her energy consumption was still off the charts. A human would have died from that kind of drain. But Kayla, she was adapting. Faster than any living being had a right to. "She's not healing," Nolan whispered to himself, watching her chest rise and fall beneath the torn fabric of her suit. "She's rebuilding." The door slid open. This time, it wasn't Mara. A tall man in a long black coat stepped in. His face was weathered like desert rock, eyes cold as vacuum space. Commander Silas Rourke, station director, and not someone who made house calls. "Graves," he said flatly. "Step away from the girl." Nolan stood protectively. "She's not a threat." Silas didn't blink. "She wasn't supposed to survive." "What?" Silas walked toward Kayla like she was a loaded weapon. He stopped just short of the table. "She was part of shipment. No fideíste cargo." A message from the Echelon Syndicate. Nolan's stomach twisted. "So you knew what was in that crate?" Silas nodded once. Not the details, just the purpose. Entertainment, they called it. A gift for the station. A warning dressed as a toy. She's not a toy, Nolan growled. She's a person. No, doctor, Silas said coldly. She's a weapon that forgot how to die. Kayla groaned, shifting slightly. Silas's hand moved toward the blaster at his side. Nolan stepped in. Don't you dare. You're protecting something that killed entire squads before she was boxed and dropped here. She hasn't hurt anyone here. Yet, Kayla's eyes opened, glowing brighter now. Focused. A low hum filled the air. Lights flickered. Back away, Nolan warned. She's waking up, Silas said. And when she does, Kayla sat up. Everyone froze. She looked between the two men, slow, wary. Her lips parted. Where am I? You're safe, Nolan said gently. Silas didn't move. Kayla's voice was hoarse, but steady. You shouldn't touch me. I wasn't planning to, Silas muttered. Her gaze locked onto him. Something ancient stirred in those violet eyes. You were going to kill me. Silas didn't deny it. Kayla turned to Nolan. You helped me. He nodded. You needed it. There was a long pause. Then Kayla said softly, they broke something inside me. But not everything. Silas took a step back, hand still near his weapon. I'll have to report this. The syndicate will expect proof. You want proof? Nolan snapped. She's alive. She has a name. She's trying. Silas stared him down. This won't end with her staying here. She's not going anywhere, Nolan said. Silas left without another word. Kayla looked down at her hands. They shook, just a little. I feel wrong. You've been through hell, Nolan said. She looked at him, her eyes softening. And you pull me out. He smiled gently. Not done yet. Outside, alarms echoed. Something else had just arrived at the station. But this time, it wasn't a crate. Chapter 4. The alarm screamed through the station, shrill and urgent, making every wall vibrate with tension. Red lights pulsed overhead as Nolan sprinted down the corridor. Kayla, just a step behind him. Her movements were fluid now, almost too fluid. The way her body shifted was somewhere between grace and precision, and something not quite human. Docking Bay 2, Nolan panted. Unauthorized entry, 6 minutes ago. Kayla's voice was calm, too calm. They're here for me. He glanced at her. You don't know that. She met his eyes. Ido. They turned the corner, almost slamming into Mara, who had a rifle slung over her shoulder and a scowl that could melt steel. You dragging the space princess along for this too? She snapped. She's the reason they're here, Nolan said, not slowing. Mara grunted. Fantastic. Let's throw her a welcome party with grenades. Kayla stopped, her eyes narrowing. They won't talk. They'll shoot. They've been trained to do only that. Nolan stared at her. You remember them? Kayla hesitated, then nodded once. Flashes. Not names. Just pain. They reached the observation deck, overlooking Docking Bay 2. Below them, the Syndicate's drop ship loomed, a black spike of metal with glowing crimson thrusters. The hatch hissed open. 6 armored figures marched out in perfect formation, their visors glowing blood red. Mara whistled. That's not a rescue team. That's an execution squad. Kayla's jaw clenched. Their suits are shielded, plasma-resistant. Their weapons aren't just lethal, they're personal. How do you know? Nolan asked. Because I used to wear one. The silence hit hard. You were one of them, Mara whispered. I was worse, Kayla said. I led them. Nolan's heart sank. The room spun. All this time, he'd been healing a commander of death. She turned to him, her voice softer. I didn't choose it. They made me. You don't owe us explanations, Mara cut in. What you do owe us is some damn intel. Can we survive this? Kayla stepped forward, analyzing the incoming formation. They'll breach the outer lab first. 3 will flank. 1 will carry a disruptor. That one's mine. You sure about that? Mara asked. Kayla looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers, watching the shimmer ripple across her skin. I'm sure. The station shook as a detonation went off 2 decks below. Screams echoed faintly through the ventilation shafts. "They're inside," Nolan said. Mara slammed a magazine into her rifle. "Then let's make them regret it." Nolan turned to Kayla. "You don't have to fight." She looked at him, her voice clear. "They didn't break everything, but they took enough. I need this." He nodded reluctantly. Kayla took a deep breath and stepped toward the bay door. "I was made to entertain them," she said, her voice low, sharp, filled with fire. "Now they get the full show." As the team stormed down toward the enemy, none of them knew what was more dangerous, the killers outside or the broken weapon they had tried to discard. Chapter 5. The first explosion rocked the deck, slamming dust and sparks through the ventilation shafts. Nolan ducked instinctively, his back against the support beam. Above, the ceiling groaned like it was holding its last breath. Somewhere below them, plasma fire tore through the outer walls. The Syndicate wasn't just knocking, they were tearing the station apart to get in. Kayla moved through the smoke like she belonged in it. Every step was calculated, balanced, like she'd never forgotten the rhythm of war. Her sleek suit shimmered under the emergency lights, hugging her frame like liquid armor. Her violet eyes scanned ahead, glowing with eerie precision. "Third corridor," she said calmly. "They'll come through the service shaft on the left." Mara flinched as more rounds pounded the floor above them. "How the hell do you know that?" "They trained me to predict them. They trained me too well." Nolan peeked out from cover, watching Kayla stretch her fingers like she was waking up long-buried muscle memory long buried. "You sure you're ready for this?" he asked. "I was made for this," she replied. "Now I choose it." Another hiss echoed through the corridor. The vent panel at the end burst open, and two Syndicate soldiers dropped in, weapons raised. Their armor was jet black, faces hidden behind mirrored visors. One aimed at Nolan. Kayla was faster. She twisted forward in a blur, her arms sweeping upward as her palm cracked across the soldier's helmet. The force sent him flying against the wall with a metallic crunch. Sparks flew. The second opened fire. Kayla spun sideways, letting the shot pass inches from her face. Her leg snapped up with brutal elegance, crushing his knee inwards. He screamed, then crumpled. Mara blinked. "Remind me never to piss you off." Kayla didn't answer. She was already at the fallen soldier, yanking his weapon free and scanning it. Encrypted targeting. Frequency locked. Same pattern as the drop ship. She handed the rifle to Mara. "You'll get 6 shots before it burns out." "Better make M count," Mara muttered. A voice crackled through the comms Silas. "All units, containment breach. Syndicate forces converging on medical core. Repeat, containment breach." Nolan's heart dropped. "They're trying to wipe your trail. If they erase your medical data, they erase me," Kayla said flatly. Without warning, the floor beneath them shook again. Kayla caught herself easily. Nolan stumbled. "They're using grav pulses now," she muttered. "They're destabilizing the structure." Mara glanced up. "What happens if the core gives out?" Kayla turned to Nolan. "Then we all float home in pieces." Nolan's voice was tight. "Then we move." Now, as they sprinted toward the core, Kayla slowed just slightly beside Nolan. Her voice dropped low. "They don't care if they destroy the station, as long as they destroy me. You're not just some lab project," he said. She looked at him. There was something haunted in her gaze. "They made me believe I was." She looked forward again, jaw tight. "But I'm done believing their lies." And as they disappeared into the smoke, the Syndicate squad wasn't far behind. The game had changed. This time, Kayla wasn't running. She was hunting. Chapter 6. The hallway leading to the medical core was almost unrecognizable. Burned walls, exposed wiring, pools of coolant dripping like blood from torn pipes. A dim emergency light flickered above, casting shadows that twitched like ghosts with every distant blast. Kayla moved ahead, her body low and silent. Nolan stayed close, weaponless, heart pounding. Behind them, Mara covered their rear, eyes sharp, rifle ready. "We've got maybe 2 minutes before those Syndicate bastards catch up," Mara whispered. "Then we make them count," Kayla said. She stopped suddenly, holding up a hand. Her eyes locked onto the corridor junction ahead. They've split up, two coming from the right, one from above through the ceiling ducts. The rest will flood the back hall in 30 seconds. Nolan frowned. How do you know all this? Kayla didn't look at him. I was them. Every tactic they use, I helped design. Mara chuckled under her breath. That's comforting. Kayla turned sharply. It should be, because I know how to beat them. A loud hiss echoed from the ceiling above. The vent panels popped open. A syndicate soldier dropped down, rifle aimed square at Nolan. Down! Kayla shouted. Nolan hit the floor as Kayla launched upward, twisting midair. Her elbow connected with the soldier's throat before he could fire. His weapon clattered to the floor as he fell, gasping. Mara took out the two flanking from the right with precise shots. The rifle Kayla had handed her worked like a dream, but the barrel sizzled with heat. That's 4. Mara snapped. 2 left, maybe 3. Kayla nodded, grabbing the fallen soldier's disruptor from the floor. She checked the charge and handed it to Nolan. Hold this. Don't aim it unless you want to melt someone. I'm a doctor, not a soldier, he muttered. Today you're both. Nolan's hands trembled slightly as he gripped the weapon. He didn't want this. None of this. But one look at Kayla, focused and fierce, told him this wasn't about what anyone wanted anymore. It was about what had to be done. They reached the core entrance. A heavy steel door sealed tight, blinking red. Override's been triggered, Mara said. They've locked it from the inside. Kayla stepped forward and pressed her palm to the panel. It scanned her hand, then her entire body. A beep. Green light. The door slid open with a deep metallic groan. Inside, 2 syndicate commandos stood beside the databanks, weapons drawn. Kayla didn't hesitate. She launched forward, her movements a blur. One commando fired, missed. She ducked low, sliding under the blast, and sweeping his legs from beneath him. He crashed down, weapon flying. The second aimed at Mara, who ducked and rolled to the side, then fired back. The syndicate soldier flew backward, crashing into the main server with a sizzle of sparks. Nolan ran to the console. They've already started the data wipe. Kayla slammed her palm on the main port. I can stop it, but you said I was designed to control this system, not just destroy it. Kayla's eyes began to glow again, brighter than before. Her hands trembled against the console. Mara frowned. What's she doing? Something dangerous, Nolan said softly. Something they never intended. Lights flashed. The console pulsed under Kayla's touch. The entire room began to shake. Then her voice came, low and intense. They didn't just build me to fight. She looked at Nolan. They built me to replace something. The floor trembled harder. But I'm not theirs anymore. And then everything went black. Chapter 7. The darkness only lasted a second, but in that moment, it felt like the entire station had died. Then, one by one, the emergency lights flickered back on, faint blue strips pulsing along the floor. Nolan blinked, trying to refocus. Kayla stood at the center of the room, motionless, her hands still pressed to the core console. Her body glowed faintly now, like she was made of starlight barely contained in skin. Kayla, Nolan stepped closer, cautiously. What just happened? Her voice came out soft, distant. They programmed a kill switch into me. If I ever accessed the core, I was supposed to shut down permanently. What? Mara hissed. You mean that whole console was a suicide trap? Kayla nodded, her expression unreadable. But it didn't work, she added. Because someone you changed me. Nolan's stomach turned. I didn't do anything special. You did, she said. You treated me like I mattered, like I wasn't just a weapon. He stared at her. Because you aren't. The core console let out a high-pitched beep. Then the screen flooded with data. Rows of files, hidden archives, sealed records, and beneath it all, one line blinking. Project Athena. Authorized override accepted. Mara's eyes widened. Project what? Kayla took a step back from the console. Her legs nearly buckled. Nolan rushed forward, catching her before she collapsed. Kayla, he gasped. Talk to me. She steadied herself in his arms, looking up at him. They didn't just want to create a killer, she whispered. They wanted a replacement for something ancient. A lost being. An alien who once healed by touch. Who saved worlds. Mara blinked, confused. You're saying they tried to rebuild a myth? No, Kayla said quietly. They tried to recreate her. From the bones they found in a crashed ship 50 years ago. Nolan's throat went dry. And they used you. Kayla nodded. They rebuilt her body. Gave a new mind. A blank slate. Mara stared at her, stunned. You're telling me you're not just some alien girl they tortured. You're a walking copy of an ancient healer. They failed, Kayla said. They made me wrong. Violent. Cold. So they discarded me. But you're not that anymore, Nolan said. You chose to change. You chose to save. Kayla leaned into him, her voice shaking. I remembered something when I touched the console. A flash. The original, she didn't fight with weapons. She fought with hope. Mara gave a small smile. Well, hope's in short supply these days. You might just be the upgrade we need. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed through the station. Silas's voice crackled through the comms. Syndicate ship just lost power. They're retreating. Kayla's eyes fluttered closed. She whispered something almost too faint to hear. They tried to break me, but they woke something older instead. Nolan held her close, heart pounding. You're not broken, he whispered. You're becoming. The station lights brightened slowly. Silence fell. The war wasn't over. But the Syndicate had just learned a terrifying truth. They hadn't built a weapon. They had awakened a legend. And that was the end of the story. Comment below if you want the next chapter, and hit that like button. Please subscribe, turn on the bell, and, as always, keep the last light burning.